Okay. So I thought about it. And I decided, and I've kind of it kind of fell back to the one I originally chose when I first did this. The ending I always ended up preferring when this choice came about is Seraph's ending.
If you do this, the focus of hatred may shift to those responsible for unleashing biological warfare, leaving corporations free to experiment with human evolution. Are you sure this is your choice?
Yes, yes it is.
So be it then.
Seraph was right about one thing. It's in our nature to want to rise above our limits.
I really hope this video doesn't get a ton of
We
copyright
were cold,
stuff.
so we harnessed fire. We were weak, so we invented tools. Every time we met an obstacle, we used creativity and ingenuity to overcome it. The cycle is inevitable. But will the outcome always be good?
No. But that
I guess
doesn't
that will
mean that
depend
it
on how we
should
approach
stop.
it.
Yeah.
These past few months, I was challenged many times. But more often than not, didn't I try to keep morality in mind, knowing that my actions didn't have to harm others? Time and time again, didn't I resist the urge to abuse power and resources simply to achieve my goals more swiftly? In the past, we've had to compensate for weaknesses, finding quick solutions that only benefit a few. But what if we never need to feel weak or morally conflicted again? What if the path Seraph wants us to take enables us to hold on to higher values with more stability? One thing is obvious. For the first time in history, we have a chance to steal fire from the gods. To turn away from it now, to stop pursuing a future in which technology and biology combine, leading to the promise of a singularity, would mean to deny the very essence of who we are. No doubt the road to get there will be bumpy, hurting some people along the way. But won't achieving the dream be worth it? We can become the gods we've always been striving to be.
Let's not go too far, Jensen.
We might as well get good at it.
You don't want to go that far, but I guess that's each of these different kinds of messages and endings are somewhat taking it to their extreme to make the point, emphasize the point about each ending. And that, my friends, was Deus Ex, Human Revolution, the Director's Cut. One of the absolute best games that has come out over the past decade. It came out in 2011, if I recall, and if it hadn't have been for Skyrim and Batman Arkham City, this probably could have been Game of the Year for that year. Now, I never got to play the original Deus Ex. I actually have it. I do have it on my Steam library. I just haven't had, taken the time to play it. Unfortunately, because I did attempt to see what it was like, how it felt. Graphics-wise, keep in mind, that game came out like in 2000, I think. Around 2000, or I think it was 2000. Graphics-wise, it hasn't aged all that well, in my opinion. I mean, the gameplay and story-wise, though, it still holds up to this day, from what I have seen. But it's not one of those games where it's visually appealing today when we have gotten so used to incredibly beautiful-looking games. This is a game that just stood out. I mean, when it came out, it just blew everyone away with all the different ways that you can be able to play, the different types of choices and directions, and not both in the gameplay as well as in the story. That multiple endings thing, very cool way to do it. Of course, with the gameplay, you can be able to go there's a ton of stuff to let you go the very lethal way. All those different kinds of guns. I didn't even get to mess with some of those guns, which sometimes in certain playthroughs you really can't. Partly because they take up too much room in your inventory, but also if it doesn't fit the style you want to play. You could see that there's tons of different augments and different things that can let you go non-lethal and be more stealthy. If you want to challenge yourself, I mean, this is one of those games that can highly challenge you if you want to go for the pacifist ghost route, where you never kill anyone, but also more and even more difficult, never get seen or detected or set off any alarms. It is insanely difficult. If you want to put yourself through that and challenge yourself like that when it comes to stealth gameplay, this is a great game for you to try that with. I mean, it's one of my favorite games in this because of how much it offers in those different styles, with all these different side quests that can go multiple ways. It felt, for me, when I first played this, similar to a BioWare game, in that it offered me tons of different choices and different results and consequences based on my choices. And and keep in mind, this was like in 2011, 2012 when I first played it, I think, that it was like, this was coming fresh off of Mass Effect 2 when that first came out. And it was like, wow, this is incredible. And of course, the voice acting for Adam Jensen is just top notch. Yes, he does kind of sound very similar to the Christian Bale Batman. Seraph, tell me about what's going on here, with the needing throat lozenges. But it's still, he still does a terrific job. And there, Elias Tufexis, I hope I pronounced that right. Great job. Of course, great job to all the other voice actors listed here in the credits as well. Very compelling story all around, with the whole Illuminati twist thrown in there, with them trying to be the overall. Now, of course, the ending choice there, I just have always, I'm not like dead set on this, or at least how Jensen depicted it. That was a bit of extreme, I just have always embraced the whole pro technology, in that, there were some images there that resonate with me, like seeing someone who has lost a foot and they have it replaced with a robotic foot, or in some certain situations, like when human soldiers lose a limb in battle and they get a replacement for it. That to me is like something that Seraph's route kind of goes down. That's Seraph's choice there at the end, is kind of in favor of doing that and making that better. I don't think the whole, we can try to become gods thing, I don't think that's necessarily the ideal thing there. I think that's, like I said, that's the extreme thing that Jensen was talking about. But each of these endings have their own extreme take on it, and Jensen narrates it for each one. And depending on how long this goes, I may actually want to show you guys the rest of the endings, or maybe I'll just leave just my own ending here just to conclude this playthrough, and then I'll do a separate video where I show you the other endings. Because of course I'm not entirely sure. I have to wait till I upload this to see whether or not all those visual clips there could possibly get a copyright for it. I have no idea. I'll have to wait and find out. But yeah, just an absolutely fantastic game that still holds up. I know it's only been 6 years since this game came out, and Mankind Divided is out. I can tell you right now, even though I recently beat Mankind Divided, there's a lot of things about Mankind Divided that they improved upon gameplay-wise from this game. However, I will say, just as a heads up, kind of somewhat preview for you guys, for if I eventually do a playthrough of Mankind Divided, is that the story does get kind of scaled down. It didn't feel like there was as much at stake, like a huge big picture at stake, involved with the overall story in Mankind Divided. It was a good, personal individual story and such. Deus Ex Missing Link. For Jensen and the continuation of the story from this game. Though I will say it does sequel bait for another game in the series. With a not as nice, conclusive, definitive ending. It felt like this could have been just a nice, isolated story, because keep in mind, this is a prequel to the original Deus Ex that I mentioned before. This is a prequel to that. This leads up to it. So it felt like this could have been the end of that story. But with Mankind Divided coming out and showing us what happened, and of course I'll save that for when I eventually do a playthrough of it, it felt like there's going to be even more to this story, which apparently is all supposed to still lead up to the original Deus Ex. Unless, for somehow, some way, I don't know how they would do this, but unless they somehow want to make it where it takes place after, I don't know. But it definitely... Well, enough about I'll save the talk about Mankind Divided when I eventually do that and talk through it like that. Human Revolution, though, it still holds up really, really well with both the gameplay and the story, as well as the different aspects of it. The music is great. The sound effects and sound design, absolutely great. Obviously, it does look a little aged, but, it was 6 years ago. It was on previous generation of consoles, so it hasn't gotten the visual appeal that the games that come out now do, like Mankind Divided. Like, if you put Mankind Divided and Human Revolution next to each other, Mankind Divided completely blows it away in terms of how visually appealing it looks. There is still some lip sync stuff, and fortunately, though, they do not have the same, body motions. You saw some of those body motions, with the arm, that, you kept seeing that over and over throughout the entire game, and it got really tiresome. I got really tired of seeing that same visual, body motion that they would do with the arms, and you guys know which ones I'm talking about. You saw them multiple times throughout this game. And I just got really tired of it. I am pretty sure that is not the case in the next game. They do not repeat a bunch of body motions in the next one. There's a lot more unique, movements and, how they move about during conversation and such in the next one than they did in this one. But it doesn't completely hurt the experience of this game, though, and the quality of this game. This game still has, as I mentioned, a bunch of replayability with different ways that you can go about these quests. You can go completely non-lethal, completely ghost-like, try to avoid getting any alarm set off. You can go completely lethal if you want, just, blow everyone away, if you want to go that route. It's tons of replayability and value. And here's the extra scene during the credits.
You worry too much, Morgan. There's nothing we can't manage given time. She's here. I have to cut this short. Keep going through the wreckage. Maybe we'll find something we can use for the Morpheus initiative. Come in. Dr. Reed. We're so pleased you decided to join us.
Where else could I go?
No regrets, my dear. As Ariadne told Theseus before he entered the Minotaur's labyrinth, always forward, never left or right. You'll be very interested in our current project. We're breaking new ground.
Yes, the nanite virus chimera is quite intriguing. I'm looking forward to seeing the hybrid project up close, Mr. Page.
And so you shall. But please, call me Bob.
The D Project. Apparently, that scene has to do with what happens with J.C. Denton, our protagonist from the original Deus Ex. Skip. Okay. And there's a new game plus here if you want to go through with all your stuff all over again. Now, if I hit continue, though, it will take me right back to that spot and let me be able to check out the other endings. But as I said, I'm going to leave the Seraph ending as my choice of ending for this playthrough, and I may try and show you guys the other endings in a separate video, just so you can see what they're like. But until then, until we get to Mankind Divided, I'm DJ Neeks, and I will see you guys next time.